On this episode of the Bono's Real Estate Podcast, I am joined by Chad Vaughn with Real Brokerage, where we talk about interest rates, where this market is headed, and social media tactics to help you grow your business. Enjoy the episode. How long have you been a real estate agent?
I was licensed and I just 4 years actually. I just got just yesterday on my Facebook memories it popped up on that I had passed my license exam 4 years ago yesterday. So
nice. What got you into real estate?
Desperation. I think like most agents, kind of been through a lot of different careers, done a lot of different things, and just never really liked what I was doing. Real estate was something that always was on my mind, something that I always considered and thought about, but right. I don't know. I always cut myself out of it. And so then eventually my wife was finally like, if you don't go get your real estate license, I'm going to go get mine. So I dutifully said, yes, ma'am, I'll go get my
license. Nice. And how long have you and your wife been together?
10 years. We just celebrated 10 years in July.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. So something that's on a lot of people's minds just across the country when it comes to real estate is interest rates. What is your advice to buyers specifically about where interest rates are right now? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the rate is the rate. Like it is what it is. So it sucks in the sense that it does impact your affordability and it's difficult. There's no pleasant way to cut it. It does make it more difficult, more expensive to buy a house.
Right.
On the flip side of that though is as a buyer, you have more opportunities and more options than you did, say, 6-12 months ago. So there's opportunities to have sellers help buy down rate or contribute towards your closing costs that can help to kind of offset some of that expense. So It doesn't make it perfect, but it gives you a lot of options. There was an Inman article that of buyers this year, 45% are actually first-time buyers, which is up from 37% last year. And part of that is because there's a lot more wiggle room that buyers have right now, despite interest rates. But my advice would be to save as much money as you possibly can. Don't rush into a house. It is my personal opinion. It's more financially advantageous to be a homeowner than a renter, but not to your detriment. So save money and then get creative when you're looking at properties.
Right. Okay. So big question for you right off the bat. Is right now a good time to buy?
That depends on your personal situation. I think for some people, it is a good time to buy, but not for everybody. For the buyer that is not super deterred by interest rates, but has been saving money and is prepared, then yeah, it might be a good time to buy. But if you're not ready to make that jump, there's that phrase, date the rate, marry the house is going around. And it drives me crazy because interest rates are high right now, but we don't know where they're going to be. It's true that rates may drop at some point, but who knows when that could be. So you have to be able to get into a situation that you can sustain.
Right. Totally agree. It's a good answer. Let's pivot a little bit from buyers to sellers. Right now, sellers are in a totally different market than they were a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. What advice do you have to sellers today?
You have to do more than, it's not just a matter of putting the house on the market anymore. Again, 6 to 12 months ago, you could put anything on the market, price it, whatever you wanted to, basically, and get it and then some. But that's not the case today. You do need to do the work prior to putting your house on the market if you want to maximize your profits and reduce your amount of time on the market. So things like staging, things like doing the repairs that are in your mind that you've been thinking about doing for years but putting off. You need to do those things, changing the god awful colors, all that stuff that you really haven't had to do in a while. You need to start doing that stuff again.
Right.
And then too, in terms of looking at the price, you can't just look at things that sold. It's not like we can look back to even 6 months ago at pricing, because again, affordability has changed so much. So what a buyer could afford 6 months ago is not what they can afford today. So you need to be reasonable when you look at your pricing and understanding what sold in the summer of 2022 is not going to sell at that price in the fall of 2022.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. I think It's been interesting working with agents and stuff in my market with hearing the stories about sellers and just they are having a hard time getting on board with the new market. And
Right.
but I think, and you are probably experiencing this as well. I think they're starting to come around. I think they're starting to realize that they're not in the same market as we were in 6 to 12 months ago, like you were saying. And so we'll just see what happens. But it seems like buyers are getting a little bit more interested in the market again.
They are. I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, when you're dealing with the objections from sellers, I see that too. But I think a lot of times what we tend to do is speak anecdotally about what's happening in the market, like how we feel or what we think or what we're seeing, which is fine, but it's not entirely helpful. If you show people in black and white what's actually happening, it's very clear. The numbers do paint a picture. But yeah, we do see more buyers coming out. The buyer pool is a lot smaller than it was. And that's just the truth. Part of that is seasonal. So getting into, this time of the year, less people are looking to make a move right now, unless they really need to make a move. A lot of people in November, December, as we're getting there, are probably maybe interested, but not pulling triggers until after the holidays, unless they need to make a move.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Everybody has every article you read, every person you talk to has a different opinion on where the real estate market is going. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the next 6 months.
Yes, sir.
I do want to talk about social media. That was kind of a big thing I wanted to talk to you about. What made you get into social media as a real estate agent?
I mean, when I was first licensed, I was working full time. So I was kind of in a position where I was like, there's things that I would like to do to grow my business and to grow my network, because we were also new to our area. We had just moved to the Orlando area and didn't really know many people here. So I was working full time in a cubicle. So I didn't really have the capacity to do a lot of the things that I would have liked to have done. So I looked at Instagram and Facebook as an opportunity for me to effectively get in front of an infinite amount of people for very little or no money. And so that's exactly what I did. I mean, I started working on building my Instagram when I was in my pre-licensing class, because those classes are not awesome. So I spent a lot of that time building my Instagram following, knowing that this has to be a major piece of my growth in this industry.
Did you have a mentor or anything that kind of told you that social media is the thing that you should be doing to start your business and to grow your business?
No.
It was
just me. I just knew that was right for me. I mean, at the time when I first got licensed, I hung my license with one of my very good friends, his parents. And they were just kind of running their own thing as brokers. They've been licensed for years and years and years, and they were older and they didn't do the technology and stuff. Their CRM was an annual Christmas card, so it was just a very different mindset. So I didn't have anybody saying this is what you need to do, but I knew for me, I had some experience doing direct sales and network marketing and stuff in the past. So I knew that social media was powerful. And I didn't, especially, I mean, even 4 years ago, things were a lot different. Even at that time, there weren't as many agents on now as there were. And I just didn't see a lot of agents that were on there and doing social media well. So I knew it was an opportunity to be different and to stand out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you absolutely do that. You're one of the agents that I follow that is consistently producing content that's valuable. It's humorous. And I can, it's obvious that it's reaching people. And so congrats on that, because it's cool to,
thank you.
It's cool to watch.
Thanks, man.
Is the content that you're creating today the same as it was when you first started, or has it evolved?
It's evolved so much, thankfully. And I'm sure anybody that follows me should be grateful, because they don't know how bad it was. But yeah, I mean, 4 years ago, reels were not a thing. Short form video was not a thing. None of this social media was very, very different than it is now. I mean, back then we could post static photos on Instagram and still reach people.
Yeah.
So that's really what I did, and especially at that time, like I didn't know anything about anything. I wasn't really, I had my real estate license, but I hadn't closed anything. Like I wasn't out in the field following people. So a lot of it was just static stock photos. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But it's what I had, it was, I was like, I can either do something or nothing, and I'll always choose something.
Totally.
As opposed to just sitting and hoping that it happens.
Totally. What are some of the top 3 things? What are the top 3 things that you're doing on social media, really focusing on for your business on social media?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what I'm doing, like super tactical, or like how nitty gritty do you want to get here?
Yeah, go. I mean, I would go as micro as you can with, without, because I know if you're anything like me, I could go hours talking about this stuff. And, but with the time that we have, try to go as micro as you can with what you're doing to increase engagement. It could be how you're creating content, ideas to come up with content. Kind of just tell us about what you've been doing lately for content, social media.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like ideas, a lot of what I'm posting about is what we go through, it's the things that we're dealing with on a daily basis, or things that we're seeing in the market,
right?
Or different trends. And I'm sure, like anybody in this field, we probably have 17 emails that we get every day of like different articles and this, that. And, a lot of times there's actually pretty helpful information there that you can take out and extract, and then kind of, repackage it into a form of content. So that is one place and one way that I get some great information. Like Keeping Current Matters is a great resource, and I use that. I take at least once a week, I take one of those blogs and kind of repackage it into a reel. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of engagement, I think it's really tricky, because I'm not necessarily looking at views or anything like that. Ultimately, if it's not translating into business, it doesn't really matter. Right. So whether it gets 100 views or 100,000, it's not really relevant one way or the other if nobody is actually going to transact with you at some point. So I try not to look too much into the metrics, although they are helpful in knowing what speaks to your audience. So it's a good measuring tool that way. Right. But I mean, in terms of like my strategy on Instagram, it's very reels heavy. It's all reels all the time. And it's, kind of, I'm looking at doing different types of reels too. I think some of the trending stuff helps, and it's good, and it gets out there. Right. But I think, at least for me, I feel like a lot of people are kind of losing their palate for that all the time. Yeah. It's important that people can hear and see us. Because that's what builds the relationship, and that's what social media is about. I think the issue is that people look at it like a billboard, when the reality is it's a coffee table in a coffee shop. Yeah. That's what it is. And so it's the opportunity for us to have a conversation or a connection without actually sitting at that table, and build relationship kind of passively. So that's when I'm looking at my reels, my strategy on Instagram, my big goal right now is getting myself and my own voice and face into as much of the content as I can.
Right. I love that you brought up the coffee table kind of metaphor, because I have been thinking a lot about content creation, and I don't know how much you follow my content, but for the past maybe
I follow it. I love it.
Awesome. Thanks. For the past 6 months, I've been going heavy. It was probably 6 months, but nothing but trendy, lip sync, that type of content. And kind of what you were talking about before, I think it's critical to be switching up your content, because different content is going to speak to different audiences. And so recently I've been really thinking heavy about this idea of documenting rather than creating, because the lip syncing strategy is you're creating content. However, like if I'm asked to go teach a class, or speak at some small event or something, and if I'm not recording myself talking, because most of that's it's going to be good information, but I may say one thing that speaks to a whole lot of people. And if I can clip that up, and if I can put that on Instagram and TikTok and Shorts and LinkedIn and different places, that could reach a whole lot more people in a much more meaningful way than my lip sync video will. And so I don't know. Yeah. And so I don't know if you've been seeing those or not, but they haven't been getting as nearly as good of views, but the engagement has been so much more powerful.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing on mine too. When I do a face to cam and talking, I get so much more engagement on it in terms of comments and, I mean, oftentimes even shares, but DMs and comments on it a lot. But the views are way down, and that's fine because I don't expect. I posted one yesterday that was over a minute long. Most people are not going to hang on for more than a minute,
right?
And that's fine. It's not for them. There's a specific message and a specific person that I'm speaking to, and that's not everybody. So when we try to speak to everybody, we speak to nobody.
Yeah.
So I think it's good sometimes to hop on the trends and be fun. I think part of it is it shows personality, and it's fun, and there's nothing wrong with it. But to your point, it's not as impactful.
Right.
And again, if it's not translating into business, then what's the point?
What are we doing?
What's the point in doing it at all? Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. And I think, and again, I go back to your coffee shop comment because I use this all the time. I say, look, when you're creating content or you're documenting content for social media, right? It's like you're talking to a person or to a small room, but you're doing it at great scale. And so if you go, and even if you get 300 views, if you get 400 views, if you get 10,000 views, that's 10,000 people. That's 300 people that you just talked to about whatever you're talking about. And so, a lot of people, I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but a lot of people will talk about social media like it's just for kids or it can't be used for business or anything like that. And I have serious empathy for them because I'm like, I'm doing the same thing you're doing, except I'm doing it in front of so many more people. And so, it's challenging that part of it, but it's fun. It's fun for me. So, do you ever have that kind of resistance from people?
Yeah. I think that people that don't think that it works are just people that it's never worked for, or they don't do it, or they do it properly. One of those things. I think ultimately the truth is that millennials, the biggest segment of home buyers, spend on average 2 hours a day on Instagram. So say whatever you want, but if buyers are spending much time specifically on Instagram, then it seems me like, why would I not want to be in front of as many of those eyes as possible? That makes no sense to me. Right. And again, it's free. I've done ads, I've done lead generation stuff, and those things, they do work and they're effective. But what is more effective is the people that are building that relationship with you, that DM you, hey, I'm ready to sell my house. When can you come over? Hey, I want to go buy this house. I'm already pre-approved. Can you show it to me? Right. That's what I want. And that's what happens.
How much of your business do you think comes from social media?
I would say at least about 70 to 75%.
Good for you.
It was my very first buyers came from Instagram, like people that I hadn't met in real life. My first listing came from Instagram. So 100% it's effective, and it's a lot of my business. And even with not necessarily just all direct business, for me, it's also staying in conversation and in relationship with my past clients. Right. So really Instagram is, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a CRM, I'm able to maintain the relationship. I was just messaging earlier, we're about to get a puppy. And so I was messaging with one of my former clients, they have a puppy. So we were talking about it, but it's not like, I'm trying to massage the lead. We have a genuine relationship. Right. So when that person ever needs to buy or sell real estate, there's only one name that is ever going to come up in their mind.
Yeah.
And that is the purpose. It's to stay in front of those folks and the folks.
Yeah, absolutely. you know, like you said before, and this is a Tom Ferry thing, I believe it's the know you, like you, trust you business.
Yeah.
And that's not just social media, that's also real estate. And it's crazy how well those two play together. And I just think that with social media, with all the data at this point, like one of my favorite statistics is 76%. So I'm sure you've heard this, 76% of sellers actually are searching for agents who are using video. And
Right.
it's like, where do these people think that the videos are going? Right? They're going to social media. So 76% of sellers are looking for people on social media, really. Right.
That's right.
And so, I mean, and have you used this strategy? Have you used, do you do like listing videos? I can't remember if I've seen them or not.
Yes. And I've started to do better. I've hired a different videographer to do better videos recently. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I work with some agents that use social media as a tool as part of their listing presentation, where they're talking to a seller, right? 76% of sellers, that's 8 out of 10 basically, are searching for sellers who are using video. And so I have agents who literally say to their sellers, look, let's take a look at my analytics. Like they make it look all professional, but the data is from their Instagram or TikTok or whatever. These are my past 6 listings that I've had that I've sold in 30 days or less. And this is the amount of engagement and views and things that I've gotten on these platforms. And we didn't have to pay anything for this. And I feel like that's such an incredible strategy, because if you're not doing that, what are you doing? And I'm sure there are ways, but what are you doing to show your sellers the success that you've had with previous? Because how can you do that with postcards? Right? You can't.
Yeah, it's
really
impossible.
Can't. And so I'm not saying postcards aren't effective. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that social media is such a great tool, a tangible tool, really, that you can make a nice on paper presentation about this is what I've done for the past 6 listings I've had that are similar to your home that I can do for you as well. Like what seller would say no to that?
No, it's super compelling if I can show you like, hey, when I post this video, it's going to get at least X number of thousand views on it. And this, you know, all my listing videos perform in this range. So you're going to get at least this and maybe even up to this.
Right.
So I can show them that I absolutely do that. And 2, like even outside of that, people will, I don't know about you, but like I always go in deep dive on like whether it's a vendor or a place that we're going to or whatever. I'm going to go on their Instagram and go on their social media and kind of see what it is that they're actually about. So people go and do those deep dives on our socials anyway. And if there's not social proof of, you know, the type of content that we're doing and how we're presenting our listings, you know, that to me is much more valuable as a potential consumer rather than what you're telling me in a pitch meeting. You know what I mean? Because like you should be bringing your best to the interview, I would assume.
Totally.
But I want to go see what you're like day to day, because that's the version of you that I'm actually going to be experiencing. And that's what consumers do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I read this statistic the other day, and it was from the VP of Google. The VP of Google came out and said that almost 50% of consumers search for the places that they're going to eat on TikTok and on Instagram.
Yeah.
That to me is mind blowing, because number one, the VP of Google is saying that himself, you know, the VP of the number 1 search engine ever, and saying that people are going to, and it's so true. Like my wife does this all the time. Like she finds the best places on TikTok, and we've gone to some really cool places because we found them on TikTok. And what's kind of nice about that is that I feel like you get the real raw review of these places on TikTok. Like if it's crappy and if it's not a good place, TikTok will tell you that. So
that's right.
So staying on the social media topic for real estate agents, what are like the top 3 mistakes, or what are the top mistakes that you see agents making on social media?
Well, I think the biggest one is, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is just not doing it. You know, the biggest hurdle that most people have is assuming that they need to do it at a particular level, or they need to do it like this person, or if they can't do it as good as this person, what's the point of doing it at all? Right. That's the biggest problem, is the non-starting. The second problem I think is a lack of consistency. So I've talked to some agents where they're like, oh, well, I posted last week and I got nothing out of it. Well, yeah, of course, like, yes, it takes time. It just like with anything, this is expediting relationship for sure on social media, but it is relationship. You can't just post and ghost or post one time and expect like listings to fall from the ceiling. That's not how it works, unfortunately. And then I think the last thing is making it all about them. So like, I think ultimately nobody cares, not to say that nobody, but a vast majority of consumers don't care about your award. They don't care what percentage you are. They don't care what broker you're with. They don't care about any of these things. What they care about is, when you are on my team, how do you benefit me and what am I getting out of this? Right. So we talk, I kind of almost like hate talking like saying adding value, but that's the truth. Like they're looking at what value are you going to add? And so I think that demonstrating over time, again, that you're giving, right, without that expectation of a listing agreement before you give value. Right. I think that is the key. So making it about them by just talking about like, oh, look at my listing, look at what I did, look at what I got, look at what I sold, look at my testimony. Right. Now, those things are important. I think you have to show those things. I think that social proof is important, but it cannot be the strategy.
Right. You can't just post your just listed and just sold as a still static photo for your strategy.
Nobody goes to Instagram for houses. Like, just like nobody goes to Instagram to find a real estate agent. They go to Instagram for connection, for relief, to maybe have a laugh, just to be mindless for a few seconds. So it's giving them that opportunity and a person to connect with. People connect with people. People don't connect with houses. Right. Anybody can go online and go shop houses for free right now on Zillow without some Instagram realtor telling them what's up,
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think that, one thing that Jason Pantana was talking about, and I'm sure you follow Jason Pantana. Have you ever met Jason?
No.
Me either. Not yet. Are you going to, this is just random, but are you going to the Sales and Marketing Edge?
I'm not, no.
I'm going to that this year in December. So I think he's the one that's going to be presenting there. Anyways, he was talking about, because I've gotten into this world of now YouTube Shorts. And so I've started this podcast and I'm using it solely to take little clips from each podcast and use it as short form vertical video on all the platforms. And one thing that he's been talking about a lot recently is the opportunity on YouTube Shorts. And like, for example, I posted a video yesterday on YouTube Shorts and it got 20,000 views and I had 60 subscribers. Right. And so, and again, to your point, I love that you made this point about views doesn't always mean business. Right. And so people can say I got 100,000 views. I can say I got 20,000 views. It really doesn't matter. However, I will say that the reach that you can get by reaching 20,000 people, I also think that's really important, because if you're providing value and you're reaching an insane amount of people, those two are just going to play really, really well together. And that's right. The more people you reach, you may reach 20,000 people. I would love for 5 of those 20,000 to be legitimate real estate people who I can somehow connect with. The rest, I don't really care about, right? I mean, I do, but I don't.
but I don't. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about that. I know you have a heavy presence on Instagram. What about other platforms? Are you focusing on TikTok, YouTube Shorts?
I am not focused on TikTok. I do post on TikTok, honestly, somewhat reluctantly, but I'm just putting some stuff there. I'm a solo agent and I don't have anybody else, outside of being a functioning real estate agent. I don't have help in this department yet. So I don't focus a lot on other platforms. YouTube is where I am. That is my next goal. So I started playing with shorts, and I will be doing videos soon, over the next couple of months.
Nice, man. So I do have the non-upgraded Zoom, and so we have like 5 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yeah, so we have like 5 minutes left, but I just wanted to kind of make sure that I gave you kind of an opportunity to let people know where to find you. So as far as YouTube goes, because I'm sure everybody knows where to find you on Instagram, where can people subscribe on YouTube?
It would be Chad Avon.
Chad
Everything is
Avon.
Chad Avon. Yeah.
And have you been on YouTube? Have you been doing more shorts, or are they more long form horizontal videos?
Shorts right now, and then yeah, I haven't gotten into the long form yet, but that is my it's actually on my list right in front of me. So yes, it's on
Nice.
it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, no, again, I don't do any long form video on YouTube at all besides the podcast that I film. And literally, it's not your traditional like full horizontal screen. It's still the vertical with kind of like the side background. But again, I don't really care about that because I get a couple views on those. But on the vertical shorts, some, like I said, get 20,000 views. And that's been the sole reason I went from 0 to 60 subscribers, which 60 subscribers is nothing. But for me posting like 15 shorts and getting 60,
but still, that's like 60 people that are an audience to you. And it's like people get so consumed, like, oh, I only got 100 views. It's like, would you have talked to those 100 people otherwise today? Like, that's still, that's amazing.
Totally.
That's 60 people.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's good. And I look at it the same way, but I have to make sure that nobody thinks I'm bragging about 60 views. But I agree. I think the 60 subscribers I look at it as somebody went out of their way to subscribe because they found value of some kind of my video. And whether that was they thought it was funny and they would like to see more. That's why what we were talking about, the variety of content that we put out, is important, because some people may like the humorous stuff and some people may be here just for value. And so I've been trying to do a lot more of that. So anyways, for you, any last closing thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, since I have you here, no, I think that, Instagram, social media has always been the bread and butter and the foundation of my business. It is not the only way, obviously, to grow a real estate business, but for me, it has always been my primary source of business, and the intent is that it would stay that way. So my message to any agent, like looking at social and kind of wondering, like, you just have to do it. And it's going to be weird at first. You're going to feel uncomfortable. And honestly, your first content is probably going to suck. But the more you do it, just like with exercise, more reps you put in, the better you're going to get, the stronger you're going to become.
Yeah, I agree. And to that point, my closing statement is social media will never become easier. You will just get better at it. So just start, like Chad is saying, and you will get better at all of it. So Chad, thanks, man. I appreciate you spending the time this morning doing this. And we'll stay connected on Instagram and all the other social media.
Looking forward to it.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too.